Welcome to another episode of the Speak Black Woman podcast. I'm super excited to be your host, Quinn Conyers. And if you're brand spanking new to me, welcome. What I do is broadcast the brilliance of Black women in business. I show you how to turn conversations into cash so you can profit from public speaking. And if you have been catching me either listening live or catching me on the replay, I'm so happy that you have decided to return. If you haven't already done so, make sure you go ahead and download the podcast and leave a review. That way we know how much you're getting some great content, techniques, tips, tools, and resources as a Black woman in business who is also passionate about making a profit from public speaking. So if you know anything about me, part of my job, part of my duty, part of my responsibility is to find the best, the brightest Black women who are using their voice, amplifying, highlighting their voice in their business or in their career. And I want to bring them right to you. So the guest that we have today, I mean, literally, she is a rock star, a powerhouse, a trailblazer. But guess what? We have her right here on the Speak Black Woman podcast. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce her. And we're going to have a wonderful conversation literally about an awesome kind of organization that she has built, but also how she's using her voice in other aspects of her life and of her career. But before I do that, I think it's also important not just to tell you who I am and what the Speak Black Women podcast is all about. I think it's also important and imperative for me to show you. So after this quick video, we're going to go ahead and introduce our guests and get right into this episode of the Speak Black Woman podcast. All right, so that is a little bit more about the Speak Black Women podcast, but I don't want our awesome and amazing guests to sit in the green room for way too much longer. I'm super excited to have Marsha Guerrier on the Speak Black Women podcast. If you're not familiar with her, not only is she an author, that means she's put her intellectual property in a book and she is selling it. In addition to that, she is the founder of her sweet spot. We're going to talk all about that because you know, as a Black woman, we got a sweet spot. So we need to amplify that. She is also passionate about amplifying the voices of Black women. Yes, that's what we're all about. So I'm happy that she is here. And she really is on a mission to navigate between employee and employers. She's a TEDx speaker as well as a business coach, and she is a philanthropist. That means she gives back to her community, y'all. So with that being said, I want to welcome Miss Marsha to the Speak Black Women podcast. How you doing? How you feeling?
I am feeling good, Quinn. Thank you so much for that lovely introduction. And I'm so honored and pleased to be your guest on the Speak Black Women podcast. I'm so excited to get into it.
Yeah, and I know that you speak, I know that you've done a TED Talk, and I know that you have, this awesome organization called, Her Sweet Spot. But, this is all about speaking and using your voice and communicating. Have you always been like a speaker? Have you always been vocal? Or was there a time that you kind of were voiceless and you found your voice along your career or along your path or your journey to get to where you are?
So that's a interesting question. And the answer from me is I'm still not a speaker, right? I don't think of myself as a speaker, but as an amplifier and as a founder and a community organizing person, you naturally become a speaker. And it's something that I know many women share the same feeling with me that, the speaking world is not necessarily what we're after when we build these communities, yet because we're so passionate about the areas that we want to amplify, it just is a natural place to be, right? As a speaker, and they put that title on us, but I don't own it, but I'm working towards that.
Well, you know what? You don't have to. So let's talk about that for a second, because a
Yeah.
lot of the women that I serve, right? So I'm all about teaching, Black women how to leverage public speaking as an income stream, lead generation, and marketing strategy within their business. And I feel like, the word speaker has become the ugly S word, right? I'm not a speaker. I'm like, sis, I just saw you do a full-fledged conference.
Yes.
I saw you do a workshop. And look, but I'm not a speaker. I'm not a speaker, right? Yeah. So I'm always talking about, speaking isn't the final destination. In my opinion, like you kind of mentioned, speaking is literally like a vehicle to get your message out. So it's like, it's very interesting that, just in full transparency, I have to be very mindful of my language, because a lot of people, I'm not going after speakers. I am going after Black women in business and teaching them, because once you become an entrepreneur, or once you become a spokesperson for your business, your book, or your brand. And what I find is a lot of Black women who sign up to be an entrepreneur, they sign up to start their own business. They don't understand that being a spokesperson also comes along with that territory. So speaking and communicating and presenting, sometimes we necessarily don't embrace it. Do you find like a lot of the women that you serve, during, her sweet spot, they kind of don't embrace their voice in the beginning as an entrepreneur and then kind of fall into it?
Absolutely. And it is, I say to them all the time, inside her sweet spot, there are women that are navigating between the two spaces, corporate America, the workplace, and their small business, right? And so we're so conditioned as employees, right, to especially Black women, not to have a voice, not to speak our voice. We're conditioned as adolescents, speak when spoken to, right? And we don't have those voices. And so when we get into a place of our own authority, where it's time now for us to lead in a different way, we are afraid. We're afraid to step into that role. Although we have platforms where we have so much to say, and we're unapologetic about how and what we're saying, but that's part of the mindset work that I do with our members, with my clients, to help them see themselves in that light. And so with that same notion that I don't see myself as a speaker, my clients that are me and that look and feel the same way I do exactly what you just said. I push them, inspire them, and teach them why the platform of speaking is so important, and really how to harness that. And I couldn't do it without hiring a speaker coach, which I did. And I've been speaking for years in corporate America. I did corporate training, and that's kind of why I probably don't call myself a speaker. I call myself a trainer in some respect, right? Because that's what I've been doing in the fintech and serve space. And that's how I know how to present. I know how to deliver my content. And it's just still sometimes nerve-wracking, but that's the work we do inside of her sweet spot.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I think it's so needed and so necessary, because there's a lot of women out there, especially Black women, women, period, who are having their 9 to 5, but they also got their toe in their 5 to 9, right? So it's just like, how do you navigate? So what was the inspiration? Why find an organization called Her Sweet Spot? Like, you could have been doing a bunch of amazing things. You could be working on your next TED Talk, right? But why feel the need to birth an organization that really was like almost like a bridge or a navigation between the employed and then the people who want to be the entrepreneur?
Right. Because I needed it for myself, right? I started it in a place. I've done all the other things that I was passionate about, that I was good at. I tried being a caterer. I tried career services. There are many things that I did go into before deciding and kind of grounding myself in this community that I've built. I needed it for myself. I needed to continue to educate myself, motivate myself. I found myself in a place inside of corporate America working for a startup that didn't value or appreciate me after being in the industry for over 20 years. I turned around and I got nothing. I got no appreciation. I got no validation. And when I tell this story a lot and I talk about it in a lot of places, but I worked for a startup. They got acquired. They gave us no dinner, no champagne, no lunch, and no bonus, which is not something I'm used to. I'm used to startups and big companies that are bought out that give you that appreciation factor, right? Whatever it is, even if it's a blanket with their name on it, you get something, right? And we got nothing. And that led me to feel like, you know what, I'm tired of making rich white men even richer, right? With my skills, with my knowledge and abilities. I bring that to the table. You didn't give it to me. I brought it to you. And I'm allowing you to use me in that way in exchange for a salary. But I said, you know what? I have so many great skills. There's so many women that I spoke to that were feeling the same way and were filling their wage gap and promotion gap through entrepreneurship. And why shouldn't I use those same skills to make those folks richer that I could use to help, people that look like me in my community filling the wage gap with their side business?
I love that. And you said something that's so profound. And I think a lot of times, some people are like team employee, team, entrepreneur. And it's almost like we're kind of subconsciously make people feel bad about having like a full time. And I absolutely hate that, because at the end of the day, some people's job, or some people, it could just be a side hustle and they like that and they're getting treated well. And other people might want to transition. Either way, you're not anything less of an entrepreneur. But right. I think you serve a very unique market, which I absolutely love. And I want to talk to you about some of those transferable skills, right? Let's talk to the women who are still in corporate America. Either they're thinking about starting a business on the side or they have already done it. What do you believe are like some of the top 3 transferable skills that these women can take from corporate America and really apply these same skills? Because I think sometimes people will have 10, 20, 30 years of experience, start a business and be like, I'm starting from ground zero. I'm like, no, sis, you're starting from 30 years. We just need to transfer these skills over. Right. So from your experience, what would you think are maybe the top 3 skills that people who are working in corporate America right now can translate instantly over to their career in entrepreneurship?
It really it's so vast based on the industry that they're working in. But I'll take an example of several of my members that are in education. Right? They're in education, they're building curriculum, they know how to organize data, right? Data analytics. And so that they're able to now build a business teaching others how to use their skills to create a passive income through course creation. That is so people do not understand and see the correlation of what they are doing now and how it can help them not only build a business, but a digital business that could be passive income. Organizational skills is something that is very necessary and needed. When you're working in a customer service area and you've been doing it for over 20 years, you kind of know the pathways and the tools you need in order to effectively retain customers, right? And grow a business. Those are skills that you could use to, develop a program where you can teach new entrepreneurs the business of business. We're so conditioned and stuck in the mindset of waiting for our employer to hand us the manual and hand us the work to get done and tell you in a checklist what they need from you, that we often forget as entrepreneurs what our businesses may need. I think any skill that you're doing in a profession where you have, and listen, I know people who would do something in 6 months and then they're a professor in it. And they take that skill and they learn how to monetize. So it really depends on what you do. It's about exploring what you do and the parts of it in your career that you are passionate about, or that may come a little easier to you, right? To create a business in. I work with people that are great with numbers and can do bookkeeping. If you're great with numbers, think of that as a solution for you to start your own virtual bookkeeping business. If, like you said, organizational skills, you're great with Excel, PowerPoint is a great creating presentations. Those are great things that you could do. Maybe go to Upwork right? A Fiverr, and become a freelancer and start that way. You don't have to go and really start a full business. You could be a solo freelancer through many of the service providers that allow the gig economy to thrive right now.
No, that's so good. And I think I mean, I hope y'all was literally picking up what she was dropping, because I think a lot of times we don't realize that our skill set can be turned into a course. Our skill set can be turned into, a workshop, a seminar, right? We can start by, like you said, putting our information on Fiverr or Upwork and just kind of testing out the waters, because it's organizations, like yours, who really plant that seed. People like, I never thought that I could do X, Y, and Z, but just taking what they were doing in that corporate America environment and packaging it and positioning it, to a consumer, right? And I think you can absolutely do that. So hopefully,
and I think people think, Quinn, I think people think that they have to create this entrepreneurial small business empire and this whole big, we are polarizing entrepreneurship to a certain degree at this time too. The way we spoke about the speaking field, it's the same thing with entrepreneurship. We're making it so that people feel that they have to be a founder, or they have to be this big, unicorn. Their trajectory should be towards that unicorn, company, and that's not it for many of us. And that's one of the things when I work with corporations and talk to our partners about their fear of, helping their female colleagues with their businesses and side gigs. And it's not about them running away from your job. If you value them, you treat them right, you give them all the things that they need to feel appreciated inside corporate America, and give them the tools to help them with their outside passions, you're making life even easier for them, right? So I took corporations, and some partners are always like, well, we're afraid that they're going to, work on their business and not on us. Well, why should you be afraid? You should be afraid if you're not valuing them and making them feel good and whole at work. I'm very focused on my job. I still have my 9 to 5. I'm very focused on my job and know how to manage, prioritize, and organize my life. And I give myself the tools, that's why I created Her Sweet Spot, to give myself the tools to do that. And I think companies miss out when they don't partner with organizations like Her Sweet Spot to give their employees the tools so that they can live balanced lives.
I love it, love it, love it. So much jewels that you dropped. And you're right. If I am valuing you, if I am honoring your voice, if I am, just appreciating you, I won't leave, because everybody's goal is not to leave and go into full-time entrepreneurship. Everybody has different goals. They just might want a side business, or it could be something fulfillment, something they always wanted to do. There's people out there who are doing something completely different. Like, you know what? I got this tech job, and on the side, I bake cupcakes. I'm not going into, it's just something I like to do, on the side. So thank you for kind of breaking that out. I want to take a quick little break and give you guys some updates. If you haven't already known, this is now available. The Speak Black Woman book, in conjunction with the Speak Black Woman podcast, how women in business can profit from public speaking. If you want to know more about how you can be a part of the podcast as well as purchase the book, go to speakblackwoman.com. If you order it directly from speakblackwoman.com, you will get an autographed copy. But if you can't wait, it is available online at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Target. And I'm super excited about that, because anytime I have an opportunity to put information, technology, tips, tools in your hand on how you can use your voice, matter of fact, lean in and leverage your voice in every aspect of your business or your career, I want to make sure that I can do that for you. So again, I just wanted to make that, and we're having a conversation with Marsha about, her sweet spot and how she's doing some amazing things, in her career. Now, you also have, you're an author of a book. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Congratulations. So as part of the work that we do to amplify women of color and the voices of women of color is produce anthologies through Her Sweet Spot and formerly Women on the Rise. And we have put together, I think we just completed our 4th anthology. Nice. For women to really share their stories. And it's a foundation for women to create that first chapter or that overview chapter of what their book would be right? And so we really teach and we bring together women with similar stories that would really inspire and motivate others on their journey navigating between employee and employer, right? Working those 9 to 5. Our latest book is called Pathways to Her Rise. In 2020, the year of the pandemic, we had provided many women, 20 women, a micro grant. We give out a micro grant every month, the Her Rise micro grant. And we took some of our last year's efforts were really geared towards responding to the lack of financial support for women of color through the pandemic. And so we gave away over maybe 20,000 that I raised to women of color. And we took that and we allowed any of them that had the time and had the wanted to, or the thought to become an author, a published author, to contribute to the book. And so I'm so excited for what we've done. We've achieved the amazing Amazon bestseller, and the women are really using the book as a platform. And it's an additional platform. When you're an author and you have that tool to sell, and to not only sell, but to impact other people's lives, it's an amazing thing. And many of our authors have come to me to say, I didn't know that writing my story would have such a great impact, not only on other people, but for myself as well. It was so therapeutic to write this story of my career, and they look back because I give them cues and questions to help them in their writing, because not all of them are natural writers. And it allows them to look back and say, wow, look how much I've been through and look at where I am now. So I think producing the anthologies have been super fun for me. And, I do include chapters in the books as well. And it's been truly rewarding to help women, really share their stories.
I love that. And I love that you are seeing, just like speaking as a platform, being an author as a platform to get your story, get your message out there in a bigger, better way. And it also adds credibility. So it really is a great way to kind of really get the message out. Now, I know that you are in the planning process of an event, right? So I know that you have Her Sweet Spot, and people can definitely learn about that online. But talk a little bit about the event and why take it offline, right? Because you could definitely have an online community, a membership of people where they can go in and watch modules. But why did you think it was important or even imperative to kind of pull these women offline and have them in the same space, or even hybrid, right? Where some type of event component, to what it is that you're doing. Why events? And tell me about that event that you have coming up.
That's kind of where we started. We are approaching our 8th annual Women's Conference. It's now called the Her Rise Conference. It started 8 years ago as Women on the Rise Forum and Expo. I know I wanted a space where we could collect and bring together experts in multiple areas. Right now, our 4 pillars are mindset, money, marketing, and media. And I wanted to bring in experts to help educate our community, and also celebrate women for being badasses and doing all that we do, right? So I created a space where I wanted to hear from attorneys on how to do trademarking, and from other entrepreneurs that were super successful, and providing motivation and inspiration for us all to just keep pushing, right? And I started with the first event. We had vendors. We started in a local setting. Many people immediately come out the gate and want to be this big national organization. And that's really a lot harder than if you started in your backyard. So that's what I did. I started the conference in my backyard. I slowly grew it from 20 women in the room to 150 women in the room, and it ebbs and flows every year. I'm fortunate enough to be in New York, where we get to pick amazing venues and go to different geographical locations inside of New York. And I'm just super excited for this year's version being the hybrid. Last year we were fully remote. obviously with the pandemic, and that was a great experience for me. The conference has always been in person, and then we do our monthly workshops virtual. So the business has always taken virtual versus hybrid experiences. And the full conference being a full two-day conference virtually was an amazing experience. It's something that I have to rethink about, having an in-person experience. But I know I hear from many of my members, especially those that are in New York. I've had people travel from across the country and even Canada to attend the conference. And people are yearning to be back in person. And so this year we're hoping to give them that hybrid experience for one day. It's still a two-day conference, 2.5 days. And for one day we will have a live experience. And it's really gonna really be depending how, the other side of the summer goes with the pandemic. So we will see how that looks for October.
Okay, awesome. Well, listen, I definitely thank you for sharing that information. And people are like, oh my gosh, I'm loving her sweet spot. I want to learn more about Marsha. Where can they go to learn more about what you have going on and what, your conference and just everything and all things, her sweet spot, or even, Marsha, what you have going on?
So you can find us on all social media platforms at Her Sweet Spot, and that's HerSuitespot. We are on LinkedIn. We are on Instagram, even Facebook, and Twitter here and there. I'm a newbie at the Twitter, but we're on Twitter as well. I can be the website can be located at www.hersweetspot.com. And I'm so excited for what's to come. We are in the process of developing and launching a Her Sweet Spot app for our digital programming so that people can have more access to our content and our workshops and our videos and our live events through the Her Sweet Spot app, which will be dropping very soon.
Awesome. So you have an event, you have a membership, you're working on an app. I mean, literally, it sounds like a one-stop shop on how, these women can really come and, figure out how to go from employee to employer and how that can work in a safe space and community. So thank you for that, Marsha. I appreciate you stopping over, sharing some of your wisdom with us here at the Speak Black Woman podcast. We always like to highlight some organizations that people can choose from because people want community. And I'm glad that you're thinking about having something live because there is a yearning for hugs and handshakes. People are like, I am over it. I have been in this house. Give me to the people. You know what I mean? Like if I got the mask up, I will mask up. So I think that's a really smart move. So hang around for just a second. I'm going to close out and I'm going to come right back to you.
Thank you so much for having me.
No, the pleasure has been all mine. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it. As you can see, y'all, I mean, Marsha was just full of so much information and her sweet spot. And don't forget, sweet is spelled SUITE. If you want to learn more about what she has going on, she's on all social media platforms, including LinkedIn. So if you want to get more information about her organization or what she has going on, or even how you can participate, make sure you go to hersweetspot.com. With that being said, I just want to thank you for joining me for another episode of the Speak Black Woman podcast. Don't forget, each and every Wednesday at 4:00 Eastern Standard Time, a brand new episode will premiere on YouTube. And then you can find that same episode the very next day, anywhere you are listening to your podcast. So make sure you go to your phone, search the podcast app, and download us so you can literally have Speak Black Woman in the palm of your hands, or you can watch it anytime you want to on YouTube. As always, again, my name is Quinn Conyers. And if you are a Black woman in business who is also passionate about making a profit from public speaking, this is a podcast that you want to tune into, lean into, and more importantly, mark your calendar to tune in every single week. Until next time, be sure to go to speakblackwoman.com, learn more about the podcast, our awesome and amazing merchandise, as well as any upcoming events, training, and of course, to get your copy of the new Speak Black Woman book. Have an awesome and amazing day, and I'll see you next week.